sophomore at Firestone, tottered into Avkali's wrestling room on buckling prosthetic legs and crutches. He asked how he might try out for the team. Avkali, all business, told Leroy the same thing in the same gravelly voice that he told every other kid who entered his lair. Anyone can try out. I don't have to cut anybody. Wrestling is the hardest thing you'll ever do. You'll cut yourself. He usually had 60 kids show up on the first day of practice, and 4 weeks later, he'd be staring down 20. Leroy wore a tattered white-ribbed tank top that day, revealing his thick shoulders and biceps. It was obvious he didn't have any legs, but it didn't look like the rest of them had gone to a fat waist, Avkali remembered. He had a build on him. If you had only seen him from the waist up, you would have thought he was an athlete. After only a week of practices, Firestone traveled to St. Ed's for a scrimmage. The coaches told the boys to partner up. Leroy was quickly passed over, as no one knew how to approach a wrestler without legs. He slunk back to the edge of the mats, the odd man out. Just then, Andrew Gasper, a two-time Ohio State place winner who would finish his high school career 121-16, walked into the gym like a gladiator into a ring. He was running late. He pointed to Leroy as though he had been searching dark alleys to find him. "I got you," he said. "Let's go." A wrestling infant versus one of the sport's giants, Leroy hardly made it within arm's reach before Andrew flattened him into the mat, brutalizing him for the next 2 minutes. Andrew showed no mercy, tossing Leroy around like a German shepherd with a chew toy as coaches winced, mercifully closing their notebooks. When the whistle finally blew, Leroy untangled himself from Andrew's web of limbs and emerged with a wide, satisfied smile. Avkali knew right then that Leroy Sutton would never quit. Leroy participated in a handful of junior varsity matches that season. He rarely left with a win, but always a smile. Leroy's wrestling days at Firestone were limited, though. Academic ineligibility sidelined him during his sophomore year, and his right femur extruded through the skin to end his junior season early. Following bone revision surgery in 2007, Leroy moved in with his grandmother on the east side of Cleveland and transferred to Lincoln West. Most of the kids on the Lincoln team knew Leroy from classes. He'd met Dartanyon the previous spring when Uno introduced them in the halls. By then, Dartanyon had either acquired a nickname or given it to himself, depending on whom you ask. "Leroy, meet Muscles," Uno said. "Muscles, this is Leroy Sutton." Leroy cocked his head in a "what's up" sort of way as he looked Dartanyon over. "You ain't the only one with muscles anymore," he thought, though he said nothing. In Akron, the story behind Leroy's disability was no secret. Residents young and old could tell you where they were when Leroy Sutton lost his legs. But Cleveland represented new territory, and Leroy wanted to be known for something other than his history. No one dared ask what happened to him until Dartanyon broke code and spoke unprompted, catching Leroy off guard. "What happened to your legs, man?" He didn't know they were gone. Staring down at the sheets of his bed, the morphine starting to fade, Leroy was still numb, but he knew something was wrong. "It was when I tried to sit up," Leroy remembered. "I pulled the covers up, and that's when I figured everything out." December 7th, 2001 was a day that started like all others for then 11-year-old Leroy. "Red, get your butt out of bed." Leroy's 15-year-old brother Tony pounded on the wall separating their bedrooms to wake him up. Their mother left at the crack of dawn for a painting job 3 hours away in Pittsburgh. But even when she was out of a job, the boys still got themselves up for school.